All right, guys, we're going to have a very important blues lesson today. The reason that I want to do this is because I'm seeing a lot of how to master the blues, how to master blues guitar, whatever. They're all popping up in my Facebook feed. You guys might be getting them too. The problem with these is they're trying to teach you a mass-produced way of playing the blues, which is complete bullshit, quite frankly. Because everybody has a very individual way, not just learning the guitar, but learning an aesthetic style like the blues. It's very aesthetic. It's not very mathematical. So yeah, they could send you their PDF or whatever about playing the pentatonic, but they're not getting down to the nitty-gritty, which is what I want to talk about in this lesson. And also, they're not, and I don't want to call any one of them out specifically, but they're not very good in developing that power and that feel. And if they can't play it, they're certainly not going to be able to teach it. If they are selling these products to you, you're going to think it's your fault that you don't sound the way that you want. So I'm doing this lesson on a crappy acoustic guitar. I just came from work. I don't have any fancy lighting. I don't have any backing tracks. I don't have overdrive to try to sound more powerful. And I'm going to try to keep this as short as possible. Now, I do have a lesson where I do an A blues and I only stick to the 10th fret and the 8th fret of my bottom string and the 10th fret of my second string. And that's that's on YouTube. You guys can scroll down and try to find that. And that just proves that this is more aesthetic than it is note choice or cramming a bunch of notes into a guitar solo. So let's get right to it. I'll have a lot of students come to me and they'll play something like right? There's really nothing wrong with that, but they want more out of it. And the reason is where their ear is developed and how they're digesting some of their favorite players is here, and that's where their playing arises to, and they're not trained to hear the other awesome, powerful nuances of that player, that style, whatever it is. So that's what I love about teaching someone individually, is getting them not just to play those nuances, but then to hear them when they're listening to their favorite blues players. So in that instance, if they wanted more, and what's really happening there is an exertion of energy that isn't easy to hear if you're not recognizing it. That you're giving a little bit more, and we talk about that a lot with developing a foundational base for your muscles, and then being able to expand. If you guys can kind of see some of my videos, I talk a lot about really light picking and developing those muscles so that eventually you can build and build and build and then go back, because we are getting a dynamic range here. Okay, even in this beginning, really nailing the strings down. Do you have the control to hit those two strings, maybe even your third string as well, or your fourth string if you can block it that heavily, and give it that much feel? And you won't be able to do that if you haven't developed the muscles and the foundational muscles to build up to that. That's why players like Stevie Ray Vaughan are so powerful. I mean, that dude is sweating after like 3 notes into his set every time, so it doesn't even matter if he's like, back in Austin, Texas, where it's hot. So that is something that we go over. Cutting the notes short, that first one that I did, every note just kind of glides right into the next, and that's fine. But cutting a note short is almost like grabbing by the collar and pulling you in when you get that, right? Even now, that has a lot more inflection and power to it. But even just a little bit, you let it bleed in, right? That note that you're cutting short because you're not doing it every time is going to have a little bit more meaning and have a little bit more jolt to it. All right, so if you listen to some of your players, your favorite players, you're going to hear things like that. The rake is very, very powerful, especially with an overdriven guitar. I use it a lot when I'm doing an acoustic set, but that, right, just palm muting. You're palm muting not down here, but you're bringing it up and just getting that, right? Those heavy vibratos, bring out a lot of harmonic ring. That is something also very important. I mean, that's huge in the Stevie Ray Vaughan field. That's why he's got a lot of that. I mean, you can see his vibratos are crazy. He does a lot of... you know, bending up that whole step and then holding it. Right? That's adding a lot of emotion. That's adding a lot of power. You know, we in some of my videos we talk about there's like a really cool buddy guy thing, and Stevie Ray Vaughan does use it too. And it's getting outside the box. It's playing. You know, they'll do this thing where like they're stuttering and they're playing, they're way off time. You know, they're not in time anymore, and it's got a stutter, it's bent. Right? And it just adds this whole new level of adventurism to their playing. So these are all things that I talk about in my one-on-one lessons, and I'm not selling one-on-one lessons to you guys. What I am trying to do is I just don't want you to buy anything and then be like, well, shit, I must just not be that good, and then give up. So I'm gonna keep putting out lessons about some of these cool little aspects to really get your solos like up and running. If you guys have any questions, please send them to me. Also, if you're watching this on Facebook and YouTube, I apologize. I'm going vertical because it's going primarily for Instagram TV. So thank you guys. Love you guys. Sorry about the lighting. Sorry about this crappy guitar that barely stays in tune. Actually, if you guys look, I brought this to Europe, my last tour, and I wood glued it together, and it's staying together, but I got a little bit of this. I got some dead notes I got to take care of. Plus, I bought it for $150. That's not bad. All right, guys, I love you. Thank you so much.